Thank you, Rhys. Yeah, good evening, everybody. My name's Alan Page. I'm the Compliance and Safeguarding Officer at British Canoeing. I'm here tonight just to talk about the changes to the recent coaching requirements for safeguarding, and for those who are CWOs, for example, why they were introduced, and how we go about going about those. So, Mark, yeah, I don't know if we can launch the first of the polls that we suggested earlier on this afternoon, please. I haven't got the poll launch facility open to myself, so if you could do that for me.
Okay, yes. That one we do first. Can everybody see it?
Yeah, I've certainly got it.
Perfect. If people can fill it in.
Oh, just so we have an idea of your role and the reason that you're here, or the hat you're wearing when you're here tonight, please.
Yep. 9 of the 12 have voted. There are 3 people who didn't do it. I'm not sure if that's including us, because I don't know. I can't fill it in. So I give it a 1 second more, a couple of seconds more. Okay, I think we end the poll.
Okay.
And I share the results. Can people see it?
Right, so we got yeah, coach leaders, got the welfare officers, good, all of the above.
That's also good, in a way.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. Excellent. Could you put the next one up about the training, so we could just work out what level of training they've had, just so that I get a bit of a background, if you would, please.
Yep. There we go again.
Okay, that's good. You want to just
okay, and the poll.
Share that. Yeah, maybe just share the results with us.
And we share the results.
Okay, so mainly SBC, good. Some intros, some TTLs, some safeguarding refreshers, good. Okay, won't do the third one quite yet, because we'll ask that at the end, if that's okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I will stop sharing.
Yep, I'm going to share my screen now. Bear with. Excellent. So, hopefully you can see a slide in front of you that says safeguarding. Is that correct? Good. Excellent. Okay. Very short presentation. I'm going to skip through some of the slides because conscious that I don't want to take up all the time tonight, but it's just basically around the recent changes to the safeguarding training requirements. Looking for those who are coaches, but also those who are not coaches or leaders. So certainly club welfare officers, you'll be got some questions there for you as well, some direction there for you as well. We haven't had any questions submitted prior to the webinar, which is good. And the Q&A session, basically, as I say, just raise it during the webinar, as Mark Jan has said, and we'll tackle them as we go through. Okay, so first of all, for those of you who are coaches and leaders, you'll be aware that, put that up, yeah, so from the 30th of September, they need to engage in appropriate safeguarding training. qualified leaders need to appropriate safeguarding training to keep the qualifications valid, and they need to refresh their safeguarding training every 3 years. Okay, this first went out in, as I said, BC News back in May. We're still slowly getting through the questions and queries, but it has had quite a good take up. So that's what we were asking you to do. Previously, it would have been possible to do your safeguarding training once, many years ago, and not have to do a refresher. What we're doing now is we're making sure now that people keep safeguarding, embed that into what they do, as part of their coaching, as part of their leading. And certainly if you're club welfare officers, it's your bread and butter, really. So you might be familiar with that. I'm not expecting you to be able to read that. It's just basically take the reference, which is Golf 21, which is the safeguarding training requirements. So if at any point you're unsure about what you need to do training-wise, or how to refresh, for example, we've got Golf 21 that's there. That's there's a later version that's coming up in the presentation, and that details it. So G21 is in the policies and procedures page on the British Canoeing website. And that's your guide, and that will tell you then whether you just need to do the introduction to safeguarding course, which some of you have already done, or whether it's full into the full SPC and equivalent, and time to listen for those, certainly for the CWOs. But what does that actually mean? What does all this mean? Well, coaching kindly produced a nice little flowchart for us. So the questions there is, for example, if you're a coach and a leader and you're not a paddle sport instructor, the question then is, are you actually working with children or adults deemed to be at risk or classified as being at risk? And then you just work your way through the flowchart. So if your answer to all of those, answer to those questions sort of brings you over to the right-hand side, we need to find out then, when did you do your face-to-face training? Obviously, if you did your face-to-face training within the last 3 years, you can then maintain your currency. Easiest way to do that is some explanations there. So 3 boxes down on the bottom right-hand side. Basically, it's to do with when you have to do the training and what level of training you need to do. So coach leader, not a paddle sport instructor, and not working with children, we sort of recommend that you do your basic safeguarding training, which is the introduction to safeguarding course. And that's within 3 years of your basic safeguarding course. Sorry, say again. If you have previously completed face-to-face training, you can maintain your currency just by doing refresher training, which is available to us. If you haven't, then you'll need to do the face-to-face or virtual classroom, as it says there, before 30th September. We know we're past that, but these were the requirements at the time. If you are a paddle sport instructor, that's down to the deployer's responsibility, and the deployers will determine the level of safeguarding training that you require. Okay, but they follow the same sort of flow chart as the rest of us. Note B, as it says there, so as it says there, the centre blocks there, maintain the currency. There are two ways you can do refresher training. One is by doing the refresher training with UK Coaching. So that's like their refresher training, or BC launched their own in September, their own refresher training module, which complains of a core activity, which is the refresher training for the safeguarding parts. And the first one we launched was an additional module which looked at social media. So we are going to be adding to that throughout this year. We're hoping to add another 2 modules into that throughout this year. But currently the one that's in there is social media and social media awareness. If you haven't done a face-to-face training course at all, then basically we ask you to do that. Obviously, we say face-to-face. What we actually mean now is delivered via the virtual classroom. So UK Coaching have stopped all the face-to-face training and drawn it back now, and you do your face-to-face training via a virtual classroom. So it's sort of it's interactive training. It's not just online training where it's all pretty much press and proceed, so to speak. This is more, you ask, there's more interactive elements, so it's more like a face-to-face session, or the best we can get under the current restrictions that we face. That's basically the notes expanded. I'm just going to bring up the bit where it says please note underneath, make it a bit wider for you. Yeah, you regardless of whatever it says on any safeguarding certificate you receive. Some people do external training that can be classed as equivalent training. We do say that ours has got a life of 3 years. So even though the certificate may sort of pass you out, or for 5 years in some cases, we actually say 3 years, and that evidence can be uploaded to your personal profile. And it's verified by a member of the coaching team. If the coaching team are not sure whether it can be accepted, it comes into us within the governance team. One of us will look at it, and we make the call then of whether it can be classed as equivalent training or not. And that's what we're saying at the bottom bit. There's, there is some organisations training which we accept. Others, we have to see extra bits of evidence to make sure that it meets our needs. If we can't do that, and obviously we've got to be really careful here, we make sure that if the equivalency can't be met, then we will ask you, unfortunately, to do some of the training. But I think it's drawing that line rather than leave any grey areas. So yeah, that's the updated Golf 21. You'll see that we've added a few more ticks and a few more columns now. And what that one does, that tells you when what your refresher training requirements are. So as again, if you're unsure your training requirements, G21 is your document. I'm not going to do that, just we'll talk through that. So next one for coaches and leaders, those who are not coaches and leaders. So for your club welfare officers, remember, we talked about refresher training, for example. That's how G21 looked before we started introducing refresher training. So for club welfare officers, we'd like you to renew your safeguarding awareness training. So has it been 3 or more years since you did your last SPC or your initial safeguarding training? Have you undertaken any refresher training in that time? CWOs, yeah, we're going to start pressing this year. We put the date of the 1st of January. We're going to start pushing this year to make sure that you've actually met the retraining requirements, which is obviously a good thing. And as I said, it's to keep your knowledge up to date. But things for CWOs as well. One thing that you might want to take away and have a think now, that for the safeguarding training for coaches and for yourselves as well, you've got to keep a record, or is there do you have a mechanism within your club so that you'll be able to determine, for example, when somebody's training is coming up, so you'll be able to prompt the coaches, for example, and say your safeguarding training is next month, for example. If you have that mechanism, really good if you could do that, because it stops people going out of date. Sorry, I'm sorry, CWO's club welfare officers. I'm sorry, I dropped into auto speak there. I do apologise. Go through that one again very, very quickly. The introduction to safeguarding course, as I said. What we did before previously, we had a course called Paddle Safe. Some of you might have did it some time ago. It's the basic safeguarding awareness, and it's for those coaches, leaders who, for example, or roles that are not going to have contact with children or adults deemed to be at risk. It's a very basic course, but it provides awareness training more than anything for you to be able to get an idea about safeguarding. As I said before, the safeguarding refresher was launched in September. It's a 3-yearly refresher training that we launched, and it's the advanced level of safeguarded training. You can't go straight in and do the refresher training if you haven't already done face-to-face or equivalent training, be that via the virtual classroom, for example. You need to do that. That starts your clock, and then your 3-year clock ticks on from there. Really quickly from me on this one, how can you check your status of your safeguarding training? You can do it through your own membership details, through the membership portal. Coach update is what you need to click on. Click on your profile and then your credentials. Sounds very complicated. It's actually quite simple to work your way through. For example, so I've worked my way through, or this isn't mine, this is somebody else's profile, but we've worked it through that system. And you can check on your credentials, as it says there, and you can see there, for example, their safeguarding protection children course was done in 2019. The time to listen was done in 2019, and they've also got any first aid certificates as well, which falls outside of my area, but that's where your credentials show. Okay. That was really, really quick. I know it was really quick, but I didn't want to tie up too much of your time this evening with this. Have we got any questions that have popped
Yeah,
in the box so far?
Rose and Mark, I think they had one. You want to ask yourself the question, Mark and Rose Butland? And unmute yourself. That's not working. I will do it on their behalf. At least I'm a Mark as well, so it's almost the same. If you have a safeguarding level 2 for children, does that cover what is required?
Okay, so the best thing to do there, if you think that's that will class as equivalent training, what we would do is we would ask you to send, for example, the certificate of attendance, obviously to prove that you did the course. Remember, it must be within this 3-year window, and any of the learning outcomes that might be specified from that course. And if you can send that into the coaching team, and that's coaching@britishcanoeing.org.uk, send that into them. They will review it. If they're unsure, and as I said, if they're unsure whether it can be classed as an equivalent, they'll pass it on to us. We'll have a look at it, and then we'll make contact with you directly to let you know whether it's accepted training or not. So the best thing with all of those, if you think that you've done it as part of your vocation and it should be acceptable or could be acceptable to BC, best thing to do is to fire it into us. We'll have a look at it, and then we'll take it up from there.
She just wrote she works in a nursery, so should be fine.
Okay.
Another question came up about the slides. Would it be possible to maybe post them on the Facebook event, or maybe email the people if they let them? I need to know the email addresses.
I was going to say, I don't know how to get them out to them. I can let you have them if you can work out a way of getting them to the individuals.
Okay, I will. If you mail them to me, I will try to post them on the event on Facebook, or people can mail me their or text me their email addresses, and I will forward it.
Okay, I'll do that sometime tomorrow for you in PDF format. Okay.
Great.
Cool.
Any questions? Email that can be found through Zoom after the call. Okay, we have a technical person here. Are the slides on the England website? Alan, are they also to be found on the website of British Canoeing?
No, they're not. No, because we ran a couple of these before Christmas. And we didn't actually put the slides up there, but we can certainly get them to you. But all of the information that I've talked about on there is available on the site. Certainly, the majority of it is within the coaching area and with the requirements, for example. And for the club welfare officers, if you're not a club welfare officer, all this information, all the information about the coaches renewal and the club welfare's renewal has been going out in the club welfare newsletter last year as well. So have a flick through the back copies that you've got stored away somewhere, and the information is in there.
Okay, thank you. Maybe can you highlight again about the need of renewal refreshment? If you do the basic one, and that's 3-year valid, do you do another one, the basic one, every 3 years if your position is not changing? Or
So Are we talking likely to come into contact with children and or adults deemed at risk or not? I think that's the question really, because that's, you know, if you're not, then you just need the basic safeguarding awareness training that's available on there, which is the e-learning, which is the same as the old paddle ability. That's all you need to do. If you do or are likely to be involved with the instruction of children or adults deemed to be at risk, obviously first time you do it, face-to-face training or via the virtual classroom. Thereafter, every 3 years, you can do the refresher training.
Jen Davidson, if you want to unmute yourself, you can ask the question yourself if you like. Otherwise, you hear my voice again.
Oh, yeah, I'm just new to the role, so I was wondering how to get the welfare officer's newsletter.
Good evening, Jan. Thanks for taking up the role. Well done. You obviously didn't attend the meeting. That's a joke.
It's just since the weekend even. So.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. So what will happen is your club chair or secretary normally has access to the club's portal, and they will be able to, they'll have a list of it or everybody who's on the club, and then they can actually tick the checkbox that will put you onto the mailing list effectively. If that doesn't work, if you drop me an email, I can send you a form the old-fashioned way, complete. If you scan it and send it back into membership, they'll make the changes, and they'll also, if you're replacing somebody, they'll untick the box and they'll tick the box for yourself effectively.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's no problem.
There's another question for from Rosa Mark. So would you say that all club officials need basic safeguarding?
I would certainly say that is good practice. There isn't any reason why they shouldn't really. They don't need to do the more advanced training unless they're falling into the categories I've mentioned previously. But I think safeguarding awareness, I think it's the right thing to do. I would certainly push for it within my club, that's for sure.
Okay. If there are any more questions,